Alright you guys, so I am in the palette drawer, long awaited, because I haven't done a declutter on my eyeshadow palettes in a good little minute. And the majority of the stuff you see on top is going to be stuff that you've seen featured in my 2021 palette video, because I was just like, you know, rushing to put everything back. So these should be really quick to go through because I'm not going to get rid of most of these. As a matter of fact, in my eyeshadow palette video as a whole, I'm really not going to get rid of too many palettes, but we're going to start here with the Urban Decay Naked Wild West palette. One of my favorites from last year. So definitely hanging on to that. These two from Huda Beauty I haven't even dipped into as of yet. This one is the Khaki Haze palette. That's what the Khaki Haze palette looks like. And then I have the Purple Haze palette as well. I haven't dipped into either one of those, so I'm going to definitely hang on to those. This was a palette from Holiday of 2020, and I actually really enjoyed this palette. This is the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette. Nice little mini palette here, and I think this was the perfect way to just to get my Too Faced fix that year, because you know every year they come out with the big old palettes, which I don't never really use. So this little mini palette did me just right. Gingerbread Spice was really nice. This one here is the replacement palette that I got from Pat McGrath Labs when I ordered the Celestial Odyssey palette. The initial one came broken, so they ended up sending me a new one. So this is practically brand new. Not even gonna open that one because I think I'm gonna end up doing a giveaway for it. This one here is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, which I absolutely love. And in the video where I was talking about the Zendo palette, I can't remember exactly who left the comment. I think it was my girl Music Lover 84, if I'm not mistaken. She mentioned that the Zendo palette that I featured in my Worst of Beauty products that I regret purchasing, she mentioned that this was kind of similar to that palette, and I never thought of that. But now that I'm looking at it with the blues and the greens, and then you also have your neutral colors, you have your coral shades. So yeah, I can see the similarity in this one. But this one was a really good formula, and I absolutely love this palette, so I'm going to hang on to that. This Viseart palette I got from BoxyCharm, I didn't get too much use out of it, but I've definitely used it before. This one is the Neutral Matte eyeshadow palette, and I just absolutely love the shades in this, and I absolutely love the pigmentation of these mattes. So yeah, I'm definitely hanging on to that, of course. Another OG staple, this is the Jackie Aina palette with her collaboration with Anastasia Beverly Hills. This may be discontinued now. If you can find it, get it, because this is like the best ABH palette that has ever come out. And you can definitely see the usage in this palette. Absolutely love it, and will continue to love up on it. We have some old school ABH here. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills World Traveler palette. And this one, I don't necessarily reach for this palette. I don't even think about this palette at all. I'm going to hang on to it just because I used to love this palette at one point in time. So, and it'll be a good reference point for my ABH palette. So I'm going to hang on to that. This is a palette from Zoeva. It's their Matte Spectrum palette, which I've never used yet. I don't think I've ever used this palette. And it's not a bad palette. It's just something that I haven't reached for. I'm actually going to send this over to my friend because I think this would be good colors for her to start like doing her eyeshadows and everything. So if I don't, being that I don't get use out of it, I'd rather it go to somebody that it will get use out of. So I'm going to hang on to that for her. I see a couple of other ABH palettes, like you can just see the dirtiness that the Soft Glam has. But this one was another one of my favorite ABH palettes, the Soft Glam palette. One of my favorites, so of course I'm hanging on to that. Talk about old school ABH. This is their, oh shoot. This is the Lavish Palette from ABH, and yeah, I'm gonna hang on to that. Used to love that palette, and I would definitely be sad to see it go from my collection. Even though I don't reach for it, I don't know. The ABH palettes just got a hold on me for some reason, so I don't see myself getting rid of any of these. Speaking of ABH, we have the newest one here, the Primrose, which I've done videos on in recent months, and I absolutely love this one. Abh Riviera Palette. This is like one of my least favorite palettes from Anastasia Beverly Hills. And you know, most of us bought it for that good Papa pink here, and then the purple shades there. You have your golds and your metallics up there, and it actually still feels really good actually. So you can see those two swatches there. I'm not going to swatch a lot in this video. And yeah, I'll hang on to this. Maybe one day I will actually use it. I have used it in the past. I just haven't reached for it anytime recently. Pretty much same goes for the ABH Modern Renaissance palette. Classic, OG, absolutely used to love this palette, and I'm going to hang on to this. This is the e.l.f. Opposite Attract palette. And I actually enjoyed this palette when I used it. It has like a nice range of shades with the neutrals and your corals. You have some pops of color over there. Am I gonna hang on to this palette? See, so those are 3 shades swatched here from the Elf palette, which is not a bad palette. It's really not a bad palette. Am I gonna keep it is the question. This I'm gonna put in the maybe pile because I don't know if I'm gonna actually hang on to this one. This Urban Decay Electric palette is a discontinued palette from Urban Decay, and 2 of my eyeshadows, no 3, a couple of my eyeshadows are broken here, but the pigmentation on these pigments, these are actually pigments, these aren't eyeshadows, but the pigmentation on these shades like was everything. Pigmentation of those shadows is everything. So that is one of the reasons why I never really wanted to get rid of this, and I was so sad that they discontinued it. I should have got a brand new one just so I don't have these broken shadows in my collection, but I am gonna hang on to this. This is the Elf and Jackie Aina collection, and I have used this in the past. I just keep it in the box. I remember when this palette dropped, I was actually in a meeting and my homegirl Beauty with Mika, she picked up 2 so that she made sure that I was able to get the palette, and this I just keep basically as a collector's item. This, if I'm not mistaken, is one of Jackie Aina's first collaborations with a brand, and it's a nice neutral with that smoky blue here, smoky tealish blue. That's what that looks like swatched. Definitely hanging on to that just for nostalgia. We have the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye Contour palette. This used to be my favorite. Like, I think this may have started my love for like matte eyeshadow looks. This used to be bae, and I'm gonna hang on to this. It doesn't seem like I'm getting rid of much when it comes to my eyeshadow palettes, which is why I really didn't do any eyeshadow palette declutters in recent years, just because I feel like I curate my collection so much that I don't really need to get rid of too many palettes. But let's keep going. I showed these recently. These are the $4 Essence eyeshadow palettes that they have at Ulta. This one is Dancing Greens, and then this one here is Coral Me Maybe. I enjoyed both of these palettes, and I'm gonna hang on to these. Retro Love from Bad Habit. Bad Habit made the palettes that were like dupe palettes, and if I'm not mistaken, this is supposed to be like the dupe of the, what's the name of that green palette? Like Subversive? Sublime? No, I can't think of the name of it. I'll put it on the screen. But as you can see, I don't have that palette in my Subculture is the name of it. It was the Subculture palette. And I don't have that ABH palette in my collection, so I am gonna hang on to this. I've never used it, but what I'm hanging on to it for, I don't know. But, you know, one day it may come in handy. Then we have another Bad Habit palette. This is the Royals palette, and this one was supposed to be a dupe of the Modern Renaissance palette from ABH. Being that I have the original one, I'm going to go ahead and give this to my friend so she can go ahead and get some use out of that. I probably have more of these somewhere, but I'm not sure exactly where. But these are the e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadow palettes. This one is, well, the green one is in Hot Jalapeno, and then I have the Pumpkin Pie palette, which is the neutral one, and I do like the formula of these. I'm definitely gonna keep these. This is the Lorac Pro. This is the original Lorac Pro, and I love that the camera doesn't show you how dirty it is, but I definitely got tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of use out of this palette. And the funny thing is, the shadows still feel good. Like, that's why I don't get rid of stuff, because I feel like these, look at those swatches, like nice and smooth and buttery, and I just always love these shadows, so I'm gonna hang on to this some more. This here is the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette. As you know, this is one of the palettes that I picked up from 2021, and I love this palette, so definitely hanging on to that. This one here is the Tarte Toasted Bloom. I used to love this palette, another one that is nicely well loved. I think I have plenty of neutrals in my collection at this point though, and I really don't reach for this palette anymore, so I'm going to, it says shelf life is 12 months. Trust me, I've had this for about 4-5 years. I think I'm gonna go ahead and part ways with the Tarte Bloom. We had good times together, guys, but sadly I think it has to go. Another Tarte palette. This is the Tarte Toasted, and while I enjoyed this palette, it wasn't like necessarily my favorite. And yeah, this is just basically more of those neutral tones. It had a little bit more like bronzy shades, but more or less when you look at it, it is just like a neutral palette. And I'm pretty sure I have a bronzy shade that looks similar to that. somewhere in my collection. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this Tarte palette as well. I have the ABH Norvina Mini Pro Pigment Volume 2 palette, and that's what that looks like. These are pressed pigment eyeshadows. I'm gonna hang on to these a little bit longer. Same thing goes for the Norvina one. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, 2 of my eyeshadows came broken. Am I actually gonna use this though? I'm really not gonna use this palette. 2 already broken. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. Am I gonna use the volume 2 palette? We'll hang on to it just for a little while longer. I have this matte palette here. This is my old. You see, I purchased it from Macy's. I used to hate when they did this return label. But this one is the, it doesn't even say a name. I don't know what collection it was from or anything like that. But this is just a quad of eyeshadows from MAC, and that's what those look like. I should actually pop these 4 shadows out, because you'll see in another drawer I do have a, I think it's a 12-pan palette from MAC that has some empty slots for shadows. So I just may, but these aren't really shades that I'm looking for, and these feel rough because these are probably old, and yeah, they're not even swatching good. These 2 swatches are from that palette. These top 2 shades are nothing I would even go for because they look kind of ashy. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. This MAC palette can go. I have the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette. I used to love this thing, guys. And those were the shades of that. And I just love this color story. Again, this is a color story that I think I have in my collection 10 times over at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. These feel like rough. They don't feel smooth anymore. So yeah, these are gonna go ahead and go. And then the last palette in this drawer, it's actually not a palette. It's 4 of the Super Shocks from Colourpop, and this was their collection with Karuchi. This is the K-pop collection, and I just keep this for nostalgia reasons because I thought that was a really, really good collection. Am I gonna keep it for nostalgia Am I gonna keep these for nostalgia reasons now though? Yeah, these don't even feel the same. They're not swatching the same. It's like rough. They don't swatch good. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the K-pop collection. We done emptied 1 drawer. Let me wipe off these swatches and we'll get to the next drawer. Alright guys, so drawer number 2 of eyeshadow palettes. This one here on top, this is the Sephora Pro Pigment palette, and this was their warm palette. When I tell you guys how I used to love this palette, and it's a big boy too because it's a pro palette, so you get like tons and tons of shades. Looking at this now, I feel like I have so many warm neutral shades in my collection, but this formula used to be really good, and they still swatch good too. Will I actually reach for this palette? Probably not. Will I still hold on to it? Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to it for a little while longer because the love I have for that palette is real. I see one that can go though. This is the Maybelline Matte Bar palette. Wait a minute. I remember I played with this like 1 time, and I always said I was going to come back and do a look, and then I never did. I wonder if this is a palette that they even still sell. But they don't feel smooth. Like, there was nothing that really motivated me to use this. And again, it's just basically neutrals. You've seen this color story probably a couple of times throughout this video already. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it because I think I have a decent amount of drugstore eyeshadows in my collection so far. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. Oh, another favorite. So this is the Colourpop and Shayla collection. This was her Perception palette. And this was like the mini dupe palette to the Urban Decay Born to Run palette that I showed you guys earlier. But I absolutely love this one, and this is one I do keep for nostalgia reasons. I love me some Makeup Shayla, so I'll definitely be hanging on to that. Now this one, this was good. This is probably like from like 2016, if I can remember correctly. Goodness gracious. So this one is the Missy Lynn and BH Cosmetics, and I remember these 2 highlighters down here used to be Bay, but I haven't reached for this in eons. I think I'm gonna hang on to it just for nostalgia reasons. Me and my nostalgia, right? This is a Colourpop palette. This is the Colourpop Boudoir Noir palette. I did not get along with this eyeshadow palette. These olive greens just annoyed my soul, and everything else just looks like something that I can find in my collection. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. Oh, this one. This is the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette. This one was actually one of my favorites, especially for like the spring days, because it has your beautiful corals, and these colors, I don't know, they just do something to me. I used to love this palette, so I'm going to hang on to this one a little while longer. Pretty much same thing goes with this one. This one is old and beat up, but I think this was the first Colourpop palette that had ever came out. So this is the cute, oh, it's not the cute, it's actually the Yes Please palette. I remember that confusing too. But this is the Yes Please palette from Colourpop, and I'm pretty sure I have looks on my channel featuring this palette because I used to love it. And this one is probably like 2-3 years old. But being that it is the first official Colourpop palette that ever came out, I'm going to hang on to it just a little while longer. This is the Ace Beauté Vintage Dawn palette. And it's a really, really pretty palette. The only thing is that Ace Beauté has now revamped their formula. So they no longer carry this. They no longer carry the palette in this formula. I received this from my BoxyCharm, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to my homegirl. She may just like it and get better use out of it than I will. One of the palettes that I purchased in 2021, this is the Party in Puerto Rico palette from BH Cosmetics, and that's what that looks like. I told you guys I wanted to get more looks out of this palette, so I'm definitely hanging on to this, and I will readdress that come spring. We have the Juvia's Place Army Rebels palette, and these have really pretty green shades. Absolutely love these, and I'll definitely be hanging on to these. I gave you guys my whole spiel about the e.l.f. and Chipotle collaboration that I kept sealed and brand new here, so I'm definitely hanging on to that. This is a palette from Hip Dot. I received this in the BoxyCharm. This is their Zion palette, and look how pretty, guys. Like, just the prettiness of the palette is what made me hang on to it. I just feel like these colors are really, really nice. But am I going to reach for this palette? No, I'm not. So I'm going to pass this on to my homegirl. She can use it. It's brand new. Then we have the Morphe. Oh, this is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. Let me see. This is actually the original Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. One of my eyeshadows done popped out. But this one, I used to love this palette, guys. That good old nostalgia kicking in. It's making me not want to get rid of it. So I think, even though I don't really fool with Morphe too much, I'm going to hang on to this palette. This one, this is the BH Cosmetics For You Eyes 28 color eyeshadow palette. And this is basically all For You eyeshadows, and it just looks a hot mess. Like, this is like when I was first starting out in makeup and playing in shadows and everything. And yeah, this I can see myself. I can go ahead and get rid of. The next one is the BH Cosmetics 28 color Smoky Eyes edition. You know, when you had these big old jumbo 28 pan palettes, we just wanted every color that we can possibly use to try to make an eye look. I can't see me reaching for these like ever, so I'm just gonna go ahead and declutter it. This is another palette that was featured in my 2021 palettes that I purchased video, so I'm gonna hang on to that because I haven't even gotten a chance to use it as of yet. This Maybelline Soda Pop palette, I have used this, and it actually wasn't bad. This palette wasn't bad at all. I used to actually use this palette, and I don't even know if they still have it or anything. Oh, it still feels good too, actually. That swatch not so bad. That purple's a little crumbly. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. I think it served its purpose in my collection for now. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. I can't see me reaching for that no time soon. This is the Hello Charmer BoxyCharm palette. And I don't know how that got broken because I didn't use it. That's weird. I was going to give it to my homegirl, but I don't want to send nobody nothing broken. Whoa. That glitter is looking like everything because it's like dual chrome. Interesting, BoxyCharm. Okay. I'm going to get rid of it though because I don't want it making a mess in my drawer. I actually did videos on a couple of these palettes. These are also from Bad Habit, and these were supposed to be like dupes to the Huda Beauty 9-pan palettes. This one is After Dark. I've definitely gotten use out of that. This one is After Hours from Bad Habit. There's two more back here. I have After Party. This one is more of a smoky vibe. And then After Shock is going to give you all the colors. But I'm going to get rid of these because, again, Bad Habit is no longer in production. And these wasn't like favorite palettes. I did enjoy them while I had them, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these. It's just this one. This is the Alter Ego palette. This is the Sahara palette. This is actually supposed to be a dupe of the Natasha Denona Biba palette. I can't remember, but I think I won this palette in a giveaway and I've never used it as of yet. It feels nice and sturdy too. And I just think this is a nice collection of neutrals. Oh Lord, I hate to give away stuff like this, but I'm probably gonna end up giving this to my homegirl so she can use it. I have the Shade and Light Eye Contour Quad. This is in Smoke. I actually got this in the influencer bag from the makeup show one year that I went, and I don't think I've ever used, I've never used this palette, but it's nothing that I can see myself using. I really wasn't into cool tones, especially back then, but I can't see me actually reaching for this palette now either. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this palette. Another Bad Habit palette. This is the Bad Habit Athena palette. That shadow's broken. I can't remember what palette this is supposed to be a dupe of. I can't think of it right now, but I can just see this making a mess, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of it. And I have the Bad Habit Aphrodite palette. This one is brand new, and this was supposed to be a dupe of the Huda Beauty. I can picture the packaging, but I can't think of the name, so I'll put it on the screen for you guys. It's supposed to be a dupe of that palette, and I've just never gotten a chance to play around in it, so I think this may be another palette that I go ahead and pass off to my homegirl. I knew I had another one of these e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadow palettes. This one is in Carnival Candy, and I enjoy these palettes, so I'm going to add that to my little collection there. Another Filthy Dirty palette that got plenty of love from me, but this is the original Jaclyn Hill palette, and I'm going to hang on to this because, and then last but not least, oh, I have, how come my eyeshadow, I wonder if Chloe was in here, because I feel like all my eyeshadows should not be broken like this, especially MAC ones. Or maybe it happened when I moved, maybe? I don't know. I need to clean this up because I'm not going to get rid of my MAC shadows, even though I don't have many of them. The ones that I curated and I do have in my collection, actually, I want, oh, as a matter of fact, these down here weren't MAC shadows. These were from a black-owned brand, which I don't even think they're still, manufactured. I don't even think that brand is available anymore. So I'm probably gonna clean this up, remove these eyeshadows, take the eyeshadows from that matte quad that I had before and put them in here and clean that up. And then that drawer is now empty. This bottom drawer is gonna be a whole headache. I don't feel like getting on the drawer, so I'm just gonna keep it as is with those two drawers. I think we made a lot of headway when it comes to those drawers because I need to go get a wipe, clean out the drawers, and I will readjust this bottom drawer in another video. A lot of the stuff down here is either lashes, we have some single shadows, we have some glitters down here, I have some old school eyeshadows down there. This is just like a whole plethora of things that I need to mentally prepare myself for, and I'm not ready for it right now. In case you're wondering, I did get rid of 24 palettes, if I'm counting correctly, unless something is hiding behind something, but from what I see, I did get rid of 24 palettes, and that palettes that I kept should fit really nicely in the drawers when I put everything back. At the end of this whole declutter thing, I may end up doing a makeup collection video just so you can see how everything is put back and stored, because you know I'm doing the cleaning as well as, you know, decluttering and everything. So if you want to see that, let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. That lets me know that you guys want to continue seeing these declutter videos. Excuse the wires and stuff on the floor over there. But yeah guys, that basically concludes this video. Let me know if you enjoyed it by giving it a thumbs up. That helps me out greatly and it pushes me out to the YouTube algorithm so more people will get eyes on my video. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. If you're new here or you missed a couple of videos, I invite you to check out the few that I have on the screen for you guys so you can binge watch me on this playlist. And yeah, that's pretty much it guys. And I hope to catch each and every one of you in the next one. Until next time, y'all stay blessed. Later, y'all.